The magical girl anime Puella Magi Madoka Magica came out in 2010 to great critical acclaim and a huge fan response. Reddit was part of that response. Since then, the first new content came out in America yesterday, and I am joined by Reddit's own user novasylum and Reddit's own user deltaburnt. I am Reddit's user clearandsweet, and we are going to talk about Puella Magi Madoka Magica Rebellion, the third movie in the series. So I suppose before we go into anything else, I'd like to know where you watched it and what the scene was like. Delta Burton, you went to a theater.
Yeah, yeah.
People there? What was the scene? How was it?
Uh, it was pretty cool. It was Alamo Draft House. So I mean, they're pretty cool. It's like they do anime premiere stuff like a lot. So and I was expecting like a very like a weird crowd, but it was actually like pretty like normal looking people. So
Yeah.
that was cool.
Any cosplayers?
I don't think so, but I didn't like really scan the room or anything. So
Mm, yeah. Saw some cosplayers at the mall in Washington, D.C., where I saw the movie. Um, yeah, anime fans. Your standard anime fan. Higher percentage of women than normal, I would say. Uh, Other than that, just normal anime fans. Uh, Nova, you
Oh
watched it
boy,
online, did you not? From a
I
camera.
did.
Uh,
Curse you for making me admit that,
a,
but I couldn't make a showing, so I wasn't going to miss it.
a cam rip will have to do till the DVDs come out.
Yeah, it was not a half decent. I mean, it was watchable. I
Right,
don't feel I missed out on the content, so
right.
yeah.
Well, um, we've had a day to think on it, DB and I. Um, so I, I suppose what I wanted to get first of all was, what was your what was your mental state like going into the movie, and then what was your mental state coming out of the movie? What was your initial reaction? Because I know myself, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know what to think. I knew that I really loved the story that Madoka Magica had told, and I had enough trust in the creators to give me something that would be uh, entertaining and worth my while. So, what did you think going in, Nova?
Well, I was certainly in the boat of this was a series with an absolutely airtight plot. Like
Mm-hmm.
no stone unturned,
Mm,
very virtually no loose ends. It covered every single thematic and plot point it needed to.
yeah.
So I was going into it with the sheer question of why does this even need to be a thing? But certainly open to the possibility that it might provide something that does expand upon the series in a unique way. And I think if anyone was capable of doing it, it was them because they wrote the original and they did so fantastically.
Right.
So
DV,
cautiously optimistic, I guess.
yeah. DV, do you even think the series needed a third, an expansion, third movie?
I just wanted new content. Like
That's
even though I know there shouldn't have been more content, I just wanted it. So
Hmm.
Isn't that the plight of the fan? You, you you love this so much, and then for years and years you sit there and think, man, I wish they would add more to this or create more, and then they do. Uh, be careful what you wish for.
Indeed.
What was it? How? Perhaps the best way to ask this question is, how blown was your mind coming out of the movie? TV.
like I guess going in, my like just quick like reaction is like, oh my god, new Madoka content.
Yeah.
And going out, it was like, oh my god, what did I just watch? So, it was like if it were if that movie were a physical experience, I would be sweating from how like intense it was and how like how many twists it had. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh.
I'm right with you. Uh, I believe I watched most of the movie reclined. I was in the second row too because I'm stupid, and I watched most of it just reclined with my mouth agape, just in a stupefied position. I would say. Nova, what was your first impression?
First impression during, after, I don't know, at what stage are we referring to
Right,
here?
right. Where he gives like a every 10 minutes, like we'll go through what
I
happened
think
exactly and
I
what your
think the
reactions were to each plot point and each
yeah.
second in the movie. So just after you came out of finished watching it.
Well, I think to sum up my general reaction throughout the thing, it would be various stages of raised eyebrows, being like, okay, what? And then why? And then okay, and then,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And then, of course, towards the end, it just that was more into anger territory. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, right. When we left Madoka Magica on episode 12, Madoka had changed the world. She had rewritten so that there'd be no more witches with her wish, that she would destroy every witch before it hatched with her own hands. She had descended to godhood. Homura was the only one that retained any memories of Madoka, other than her little brother. Where the movie starts, it opens on Homura and Madoka, oddly enough, in her magical girl form. Sayaka, who by all rights should not exist. Mami, Kyoko, and and Charlotte, the witch, uh, who also should not exist in Madoka's new universe. So, from the first scene, and if we make the assumption that everybody who watched this movie had seen Madoka Magica, which is a fair assumption, at the first scene, the first time anything happens, we already know something's wrong. We're already confused. We're already wondering why Charlotte and Sayaka and Madoka, especially Madoka, why they're there. Um, and doesn't tell us right away, does it? Uh,
That something is wrong, you mean?
oh no, it acknowledges that something's wrong fairly quickly,
Oh
but
yeah.
it doesn't tell us the reasons for that. Kind of
Sure.
holds those off, and I think intentionally. So the first major thing that got to me was the transformation sequences. What happens for those of you that haven't seen it? And I don't know why you're listening to this and haven't seen it. Uh, they do they do silhouette transformations where each of the girls has a different dance style. They they have music in the background and they all do a different dance. And these are elaborate transformation, very stylized transformation sequences. And
It
it,
was fucking great. It was
it
great.
was as a fan who wanted more Madoka content, it was great. um, yeah, did you enjoy it, Nova Asylum? Just on a pure visceral level, did you buy into that transformation sequence bit?
Um, it certainly had visual appeal. I'll give it that.
Hmm.
But to go to what you said, that it appeals to the fans, to the fan level in you.
Yeah.
In a way, I feel like that's the only reason that kind of scene exists,
Oh, we'll get there.
which is problematic to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's fan service, pure and simple.
And really, that whole first act,
Uh,
this stage
all five girls fighting together.
where you're not necessarily being told why things are going wrong.
Hmm. Yep.
I feel like that's kind of the overarching mood of the whole thing is let's give the fans what they want.
Oh, it's a smorgasbord of that. The cake song.
Oh man, the
How
cake
much?
song.
How much did you love and both hate the cake song? That was my initial reaction. Was this is amazing? At the same time, my brain was thinking this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there.
DB, are you a raspberry or are you a pumpkin? I don't know.
Uh, I mean, like it was like it wasn't bad, and I acknowledge that story-wise, I guess it kind of makes sense that it would be awkward and seem out of place. I mean,
Well, it really developed
I
the
guess that
characters.
I guess that's what the entire point of the first act was, to make everything feel out of place and weird.
Yes.
Um, but at the same time, it's just like, come on,
Okay.
like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was just
yeah. Who are they fooling? This is not. I don't think that was the Madoka Magica everyone was expecting.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that certainly wasn't what I was going in there for, but yeah,
I,
threw me for a loop.
yeah, the fan part of me wanted to enjoy it, and the part of me that analyzes things and said, "What purpose do these scenes serve?" Just, just could not stomach that cake song.
Well, at the same time, like when I was watching it, I was like, what the hell is this? Why is this in here?
Mhm.
Why am I watching this? And I don't know. It kind of like it plays into the same thing the original series had, where once you see it all and then go back to the beginning, everything makes a little more sense. I that kind of applies here too, but it wasn't quite as subtle,
Are you saying
obviously.
that as someone who's watched the entire movie and now it makes sense to you in retrospect, or are you saying that as somebody who was expecting it to make sense in retrospect?
A little of both. Like I kind of trusted that like that wasn't in there just to be like cutesy and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
random,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um, but then again, at the same time, I was like thinking, well, this could very well be the last Madoka content we're getting. Maybe they're just throwing in a bunch of random fan service so they
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
get as much money out of this as possible.
Oh man. Okay. See we're all on the same page. Homer goes on a
Yeah,
journey then that really really hit me in a couple of different ways. She realizes that the world is wrong, and she begins to walk down the path of trying to unravel why everything's not the way she thinks it should be. She doesn't remember exactly, but she enlists Kyoko's help to leave Mitakihara City and go see what else is out there. And they travel on a bus. They can't leave the city. I don't know. In these scenes, I and throughout the movie, I want to say, and I'll qualify this, maybe it was just because I was looking for it that I found it. But I saw a number of references to both Revolutionary Girl Utena and Princess Tutu. Um, and first and
really.
foremost, it hit me right here was the theme of escaping. Um, the theme that uh, there's something out there and the characters can't understand and they have to deal with what they're shown, but they know there's something else out there. Um, and you see it here. It felt very much like Utena trying to get out of the Otori Academy, and it felt very much like Tutu trying to escape Drosselmeyer's story. Other things, other things later on, in the or during the bus scenes, if you look at the architecture in the background, reminded me so much of Utena. The arches that just end and have no supports. Um, in For Princess Tutu, all the ballet and the swans and ravens and black feathers. and Homura's outfit later in the series. Um, in Utena, there's a reference to the egg that will not hatch. You have to break the egg shell. Perhaps again, just qualify that. Maybe it's because I was looking for it. Maybe because it's just confirmation bias. It's just me interpreting um, stuff that isn't there. Anywho, so you when you get that, that's just me. Okay, that was just me. Moving on. Mommy fights Homura.
Oh
That
man.
was some full like Die Hard shit right there.
Yeah. Now they never fought in the original series. They threatened it, but they never went one-on-one. And if we're
Yeah.
talking about fan service, was this not a big example of fan service?
Oh, absolutely. Hands down.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
That's the kind of fan service I can buy into, though.
why is that?
I don't know. Maybe there's just a part of me that kind of has that mentality of who would win in a fight, X or Y. That, to me, speaks to me more than Cake Song. Let's put it that way. Plus, it's a visual spectacle. I'll
It
give it that.
it was that. Was that. It felt very Matrix to me. I'm not a big action guy. I couldn't really appreciate it. Did you dig it more than the cake song, DB?
Um. Yeah, definitely. Because like that's what like a lot of what Madoka is about. It's like going from like cutesy stuff to like dang, this is pretty hardcore. So it it like the way it like had that switch right there where they're going from singing about cake to just like thousands of bullets flying everywhere. That was, you know,
That was some quintessential Madoka.
yeah.
Uh,
Which by the way, I love Mommy, but Homer should have won. Like it shouldn't have been a contest.
oh, get out of here! She
So
had the foresight to attach her little ribbon to her leg.
I didn't actually understand how that worked. Like, the idea is if she's attached, then the time thing just doesn't work?
Yeah, if anybody's touching Homura, they travel in her time.
Was that
so she
established? Oh, wait, yeah. No, it definitely was.
Yeah.
But
I don't think she
I
attached
thought
the
that was
ribbon before she left though. I thought that was after like
Mm.
she had already like left the apartment.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but
So
before.
like, how did she
Yeah.
get there in the
See, the
first
way I
place?
interpreted
Oh
it in the
yeah,
series was that
yeah.
I don't know. I felt it was a conscious thing. Like, if Hummer is touching somebody, she's like, okay, you get to be part of this now. Not, you can hitch a ride on board. I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It is vaguely not very.
I know they have to do it because otherwise it's not even fair.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Now, what what in the world was the shooting to the knee and then exploding into ribbons?
Yeah, apparently Mommy has some like broken power where she can just like have this puppet
oh, you know what?
fighting.
I just remembered this, but in the different story manga, she does do that. I think same thing.
Oh, okay, so that's canon.
That
That's
is canon, I
uh,
believe. Assuming that the
When?
different story is canon. And
so
I'm not
okay.
sure it is. I'm not even sure who wrote that.
No, probably not, but whatever. Okay, okay. We'll write that one off as okay. Maybe mommy could make a copy of herself out of ribbons.
Sure.
Whatever.
Why the hell not?
Yeah. The problem is, why not just talk? Wha- There's no other reason for
Well, that
they're
that's
fighting
that's
over
why it's fan
Bebe.
service.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
why it's fan service.
yeah.
Because they could have just talked. And
Now,
this is the sort of thing I wouldn't expect from Madoka Magica, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. It seemed out of place to me.
hmm
It it really did. Now, after being so confused for half an hour or more, the shot to the head, where Homura turns the gun on her own self, pulls the trigger. DB, what was the reaction like in your theater?
I wasn't I wasn't expecting her to actually do it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, come on, how would she see Madoka again?
Yeah, yeah,
Just those 2 points don't they don't fit together. So, I mean,
yeah.
but at the same time, I it seemed like a gamble, like way too much of a gamble. It seemed like one of those things in a story where it's just like that was way too perfect for that to happen the way it did.
Indeed,
That
indeed.
like,
Did it?
come on.
So it seemed out of character to you? Homura wouldn't have done that.
No, I'm just saying I think that's something Homura would have done. I'm not saying that that's something anyone would be able to pull off. To be able to fake shoot herself in the head, aim it towards a ribbon, the soul ribbon connecting her and mommy, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the blood. What? Did she shoot herself?
I'm a
I
little
guess it
unclear on that.
I guess it grazed her.
From what I thought immediately, and I thought this was a huge tone swing, and I thought this was where the movie was going to get good. Um, she shot herself, and you see the blood, and there's this quick reaction shot of it. It looks like she blew her eye out. This is what it looked like, and I was like, "Oh man, we're gonna get the eye patch Homura. It's gonna be awesome." Uh, that's what I thought had happened, and ready for that. Um, but then she was fine, and even a later shot, you can see her left ear is completely fine. She she didn't even damage
Well,
herself, and yet there's blood.
that could be chalked up to oh, magical girl can repair
That could.
themselves.
That could. Yeah, she didn't damage
Or
her soul
simply,
gem.
yeah, or the circumstances of the world
Indeed, indeed.
clearly,
Yep.
yeah, doesn't work quite on the same level.
So, you know what? Because of that, it cheapened the danger. It kind of made, because they had this dangerous act happen and no repercussions, it kind of made the danger feel less, the stakes lower. That, oh, she can shoot mommy in the leg and then she can shoot herself in the head and nothing happened because of it.
Well, I don't know. We saw in the original series how lethal magical girls can be against each other. Like when mommy just one shots Kyoko,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then Madoka has to kill mommy. Like that. That was that was one of my favorite parts of the original
Oh,
series because it
yeah.
was just so jarring, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So they definitely kind of I guess they didn't want to kill anyone off because this was their last chance to have any sort of character interaction.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it kind of cheapened the interactions. So was it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah.
It would have been slightly ironic if Mommy was the first one to die again. So
No, they have to have the fan service. They didn't even get to the part where she takes off her towel. Do you
yeah,
Oh yeah, you want to talk about fan service? Right
What?
there,
What?
right there.
All right. How did you enjoy the Bebe, the character of Bebe, Charlotte?
Okay, I actually have to throw this out here right now,
Mm,
but
go for it.
I read there was this brochure that came out in Japanese theaters when the movie was released, and it has a lot of really great behind the scenes tidbits. And regarding Bebe, her inclusion in the film is directly inspired by fan art that was pairing her with Mommy.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's why she's there.
There's an
Certain,
encouraging statement to all you fan art creators out there in the world,
yeah, exactly.
saying, "Hey, do that. It'll become canon."
It was apparently a big phenomenon because for whatever reason, a lot of people were viewing Charlotte as kind of a moe character for whatever reason,
Yeah. Yeah.
despite the gruesome thing she did.
I'm gonna level with you guys. That felt weird to me. I did not have any special attachment to Charlotte. I didn't think her popularity more so than the other witches. I thought that was I thought that was odd.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Well, it was the only witch that had like a sort of at least small like cutesy aspect to it
Oh yeah.
because like there was like the Bebe doll that like was like I guess the fake witch
Yeah.
that mommy quote unquote killed. Um, and like there's a lot. Oh my god! If you go on the wiki and read about Charlotte, there's so much like
Oh,
backstory people have
yeah,
like
that she was
dug
a
up. Like
cancer patient and she couldn't have
yeah,
cheese, and
Yeah.
that's yeah,
and that's why she loves cheese.
yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And like there's a ton of um fan art like Charlotte Moe, and it's just like
Hmm.
I understand it. If there's one witch I had to choose, it would be Charlotte.
Well, I
Yeah, but
could
if that's the reason they use for putting her in the movie as an expanded character,
yeah.
Well, I think that's not a bad reason, but if you're gonna do it right. Don't give her like 3 lines of dialogue and make her a mascot character.
that is true.
Just
Yes.
don't do that.
My main problem with
Like
her, yeah,
if you're gonna do it, talk about her like cancer. Just yeah,
yeah,
do it right.
yeah, because she felt uh, ancillary. She kind of didn't. She had that Mary from Neon Genesis Evangelion rebuild movies that she
Oh my
doesn't
god,
Mhm.
affect
Mary.
the
Oh my god.
plot. Yeah.
I'm a known hater of the second Evangelion rebuild movies because it was just too much fan service and in terms of like action and like new characters,
Did you
it just
see
didn't
that
quite fit
happening in
together.
this movie? Do you think Bebe's inclusion was straight up fan service?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you could argue that like if it's good, if it's implemented well, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
This time it wasn't implemented that well, but at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, like we were saying with the cake, I can appreciate the cake song for being this just on its own cute little cake song of the five people singing together. Um, as much as I didn't really think it was necessary for the story. Um, but Bebe, I didn't get anything out of her that wasn't just, oh, hey, we're throwing the fans a bone.
um, I don't know. I think probably the like the most like the worst thing about the movie was Bebe. Not that like
Mhm.
it was just absolutely horrible. It's just like they hyped up her character so much.
Yeah,
She ended up
yeah,
just being kind of annoying, and
yeah,
then like nothing really played out, and it was just obviously fan service.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Okay, so Homura, what would you say Homura does? She goes on her little gondola journey into and sees a painting. I guess it was a painting of Goddess Madoka. She remembers Madokami, um, and she can't figure out why there's still a Madoka there. I didn't actually write down on these show notes anything about the scenes between Madoka and Homura.
Oh, really? Because I think there's a lot to discuss there.
Is there? Well, take it
I
away because I can't. It didn't strike me as emotionally resonant, and it didn't strike me as necessary for a lot of the
well,
plot.
well, I agree. I do, but I think if you actually pay attention to the content of the words they're saying, I think it's almost character betrayal. Honestly.
Well, explain. Tell me more. I missed it.
Okay. See, now maybe I'm interpreting this the wrong way, but that scene where Homura and Madoka are talking amongst the lilies,
Hmm.
or whatever flowers those were, whatever. The point being, I believe Madoka says something along the effect of, if there were anything that would make Madoka, or that would make Homura cry if Madoka were to do it, then she wouldn't do it. Which, to me, indicates or hints towards the fact that she went and became a god in the original timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore kind of her doubling back and saying like, no, I probably shouldn't have done that because it made you sad. And Homura being all like, you know what, this is what I wanted to hear from you, and I should have stopped you before.
Oh.
That's what that scene seemed to indicate to me, and that is just horrid to me.
Hard on a character development?
On an extent that it completely rewrites the characters, I think.
Yeah, I honestly thought, because at that time you knew they were in a false world, I thought that was a flag that Madoka was not the real Madoka.
But
Because she specifically, at the end of episode 12, she says, yes, I will sacrifice myself.
yes, that is the entire point of that episode, to indicate that this is what the entire journey has been about for her.
Yeah.
That was the end point.
Yeah.
All the things that happened across all those timelines were leading up to that moment. And now this scene is basically being like, nah, I regret it.
It didn't. It made so little sense to me that I just straight up wrote it off.
I don't blame you, honestly. It took me a second to even understand what the dialogue was about because it didn't match up the characters. It didn't match up with them.
Man.
But I went back and read the transcript, and I was like, they're reversing what they accomplished at the ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that scene, that's arguably my least favorite scene in the movie right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't get it. DB, you got to take on that scene?
Yeah, that was one of the scenes I don't like entirely remember in its entire like.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, like it kind of felt like it was just there to be there.
Yeah.
So which might have been why there was like so many like character breaking moments with it that it just kind of they needed to add more content or they needed a more like Homer and Madoka
Actually,
interaction.
I'll tell you what. I think one of the reasons it might be there and the reason why it might feel like they just sort of threw it in is so that it can transition Homura between her character at the beginning of the movie and the one at the end.
Oh, that still doesn't account for Madoka's disparity in.
Oh, it absolutely
Well,
doesn't. But
if you say that, then it might all make sense. So because they 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 talk about how Madoka is like trapped in Homer's world with all these false memories. So would it be too far fetched to say that maybe Homer is getting Madoka to say what she wants to hear?
Yeah, that's what I
That
thought.
Madoka is saying.
maybe.
That's not
Madoka's,
Madoka's actual feelings.
But I should. This may just be my interpretation of the character, but I don't think Homura would have wanted to hear that.
Hmm.
I thought that she and Madoka were very much on the same page at the end of the series.
Sure. So even
I don't
Homer.
know about that. But at the end of the series, I felt like Homer had like regret. Like basically, like the best possible like outcome is
I
that
don't
one of
know.
them wishes that magical girls never existed and they had a normal life. And this was not a terrible outcome for them, but it could be a much better situation. So
I mean, I suppose there are certainly more ideal situations than the one that they ended up in, but
it was
that.
obviously a very up to interpretation ending,
Hmm.
Oh, sure.
which is why I was excited for this movie to like kind of like tie things together. But
Yeah, that it didn't do.
No.
Uh,
I guess that's just how Shaft rolls.
yeah, let's move on. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. Cube has a monologue that lasts for about 5 minutes, um, while Homura and all the Homuras are dripping into blood and then coming out of the blood and symbolism.
So
Yeah, you want to take it? You want to take it away?
yeah, so he explains like, oh, they're in plan to isolate like Madoka and figure out what they're doing, which is pretty devious of them. Fuck Kyubey.
Yeah,
You know,
they place Homura's decaying soul gem in a stasis field,
yeah.
and they sort of use it as bait for Madokami to come rescue her.
And like at first I was like, what? This isn't, I'm not buying into this. But then I have to remember the original series was talking about entropy and stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it some leeway. Um,
Yeah,
but I have to give them credit.
yeah,
They actually got me twice. The original series, they're like, oh, QB's, the real villain,
yeah.
and then this new movie, they're like, oh, QB's the real villain. And I was actually kind of surprised. Again, I fell for it. And I thought it was gonna be like the person who like set up this entire scheme was maybe like, I don't know, like Sayaka, because she was like so
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
like her presence as a witch was like so ingrained, or there's
Uh-huh.
something else.
Who,
I
who,
just for some reason I didn't expect QB, and I think it's because they so downplayed him
mhm.
until it was time for the reveal.
That's great. They got you again. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was Madoka who'd set up the whole false world.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Um, yeah, as a kind of an idyllic world for Homura, or I thought we were getting a glimpse of magical girl heaven or something like that.
yeah, definitely. That's kind of
Oh,
like what
maybe.
my mind was thinking about it.
Um, uh, yeah. So Kyubey tells her that she's bait for Madoka, um, and then Homura says she decides to transform into a witch inside of her own grief seed, um, and then proceeds to do it. In Homura's witch form, I don't know the witch's name, but it is the same witch from Madoka Magica Portable. If you ever get to
I
Homura's
still
island,
need,
huh?
but I still need to play that. But I
Uh,
would have to say this would be Chef's perfect moment. Like if they did this right, they would have redeemed the entire movie.
uh,
No, I'm okay about the movie, but this could have made the movie like really really great if they revealed that. And I guess it was already kind of revealed in the portable version, but I had yet to play that, so
oh yeah,
I
most
didn't
it
know
was
at the
only in
time. But
Japanese, so
I was thinking that maybe they were going to reveal that Homura's witch would be Walpurgis, however you pronounce it,
oh,
because
Walpurgis Knox.
all the speculation like around like episode 10 was like, oh, it's totally like Homer's witch is Walpurgis. There's so many like similarities, like it has all the gears and stuff, so like that's obviously how it works, and it always shows up this at the same time because it can travel between universes and times because that's how Homer's power works.
Uh,
And I was thinking, come on, Shaft, bring it together. So I was
that would
a
have been
little upset.
something.
Yeah, but obviously that would be a huge retcon. They just like
Yeah,
wrote over what they did in the portal.
yeah, they'd have to wave a lot of hands to make that one work. Uh, but
I do
yeah,
think it's odd they never actually committed to explaining that one.
yeah.
Yeah, uh, I don't know.
At
So
least as
That's
far
one
as
of
I
the
know.
biggest sins about the series is what is that witch? Like it's such an important role,
it's
but
I don't think it's a sin of the series. I think it's a plot device of the series that you don't need to
yeah,
question.
but
Yeah.
it's probably the most powerful witch besides Madoka's,
Uh-huh.
and they don't really
Well,
know.
the name itself means it's a gathering of witches, and all the familiars are magical girl
I
silhouettes.
believe,
Yeah,
um, I believe on the wiki or somewhere it was confirmed by Urobuchi that that's kind of just the de facto explanation is it's just a fusion of witches.
Mhm.
Which I would have liked a little more detail than that,
Yeah,
but
sure.
yeah.
All right, so there's a huge battle sequence. Um, huge. We get Tiro finale cannon. We get Sayaka controlling her witch form to fight Homura's witch. We get Charlotte as a as in battle. You get it's a pretty crazy fight scene, all told.
So, and like the final conclusion is that I guess Homura wanted to make that like isolation field her grave to save Madoka, and then they're like, no, we're not gonna have this. Madoka will save you, law of the cycle, but isn't that exactly what Kyubey wanted? Is for Madoka to step in? Like, is it like how is that breaking their
Yeah.
plan?
I really don't understand the circumstances behind that whole that whole portion of the movie. Really,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
quite follow.
Homura and Madoka both fire their bows, and they break out of the out of the incubator's containment field. They fire their blast hits all the incubators that are watching it as they scream, "We don't understand," and which again could just be considered another fan service shot. And then uh, Mami and Kyoko, we are back into the real world, taken out of Homura's soul gem, um, and we're into the real world where Mami and Kyoko are there, and then as Homura's soul gem blackens, the law of the cycle and Goddess Madoka ascend from the heavens, drawn and a chariot drawn, containing Bebe and Sayaka along with them, as Madoka comes to purify Homura's soul gem, take her into magical girl Yuri heaven. Um, how many of you thought that was the final ending to the movie?
Well, I did until I saw Homer's like evil smirk, like lowering. I'm like,
That's the
you
turning
well, wait
point.
a
you
minute.
thought it was going to end there? Because I didn't.
I didn't.
Really, really didn't. Um,
I like, I didn't think it was gonna end there, but I thought that was gonna be like the
oh, the
climax.
climax. Yeah, and then
Yes.
there would just be the falling action after that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um.
yeah.
If
I
only.
well, okay, and at the same time, did you guys really see what was coming there? Like, even if you did see that it wasn't gonna end,
Oh
did you?
no, no,
I don't think anyone could
no.
have.
Partially because it doesn't make all that much sense,
It makes no sense.
and we'll get into
It.
that. So, this is for people that have obviously seen the movie or spoiler cast. Homer reaches up, grabs Madokami's hand, pulls her into and partially separates her from the law of the cycle, absorbs some of her power somehow, and then rewrites the world in her own image as she describes herself, a demon. I just want to say, first of all, I'm fine with that twist. If
I am
you
absolutely not, but do go on.
if your end goal is I want Homura to become like goddess level anti embodiment of evil, okay, I'm all right. I'm like, let's get there. My main complaint about the movie is that none of the cake song or anything like that did a good enough job of setting that up. And the only really the only really resonant part for me was when she said she's talking to Cube as she rewrites the world, and she says, "It's something you incubators will never understand. It's called love." And I thought the idea of evil love was interesting enough to almost justify Homer's actions. Um, you take all the times, all the relationship building out of the series, and say, yeah, she would want to be with Madoka. We're getting to the plot holes, and this is I've got a number here. Okay, the biggest and most glaring one was not Homura going to be with Madoka in Magical Girl Yuri Heaven. Sayaka was there as her own
So,
Well,
Open
you go
question.
ahead.
I mean, weren't they going to be together?
I don't
The
think.
way I saw it is
Mm,
that she was splitting Madoka from the law of the cycle. So
Yes. Yes.
she was keeping the destruction of witches in place, but making sure that it wasn't Madoka's responsibility to do that. Which
Uh,
is kind of how I think that plays into why they need the incubators, is that they were maybe replacing the incubators with Madoka, that they were responsible of getting rid of the witches. And now Madoka is just, this normal person. It's no longer a god. Um, and so I think maybe to Homura, that was a better result. Because it wasn't as much spending time with Madoka, it was
mhm.
making sure that Madoka was, I guess, safe. And she had
Okay.
she was saved.
She had a future. She had a. She,
So, and that's kind of what I got from like where she grabs Madoka and like it splits her into two images.
mhm.
That was my immediate thought, and it kind of like I don't know if that's just like confirmation bias, if maybe I was just kind of connecting the future scenes to what I had already thought, but
Mhm.
that's the only theory that seems to make sense to me right now.
I don't. I like that more than anything else I've ever heard, but I don't like that because it could have been so easy for Homer to say it's better for you to have, or it's better for, especially when she's monologuing to Sayaka in her new world. It's better for Sayaka to have, or for Madoka to have this type of life than any other, than having to live as a entity for all eternity. She could have just said that, and then it would be, oh, that's your motivation. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that though. Maybe that's a fault in execution and not in the intent. Mm, yeah.
you see, the way I see this is, if they really needed to have Homura at this point where she's willing to undo what Madoka did, and that's effectively what she's doing here,
Mhm.
then they really needed to develop the character better across the course of this movie. And like I said, it's that one scene in the flowers, and that's about it. So we're expected to believe from the end of episode 12, where she seems to at least understand the motivations behind Madoka's wish.
Yep. Yep.
Now she is completely and utterly willing to undo everything.
Yeah.
Which,
Quite the jump.
I mean, yeah, it's quite the jump because I do understand her desire to be with Madoka, but not to the extent that she would utterly violate her the
Yeah.
ideals of that friend that
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
developed.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a massive out of nowhere.
Yeah. Sort of hurts the character.
Destroys the character almost.
but it
I almost
I
go
don't
that
know.
far.
At the same time, like I'll I'll cut them some slack and say like Homer's probably gone crazy multiple times through like because she's obviously the most like damaged character in the series. So I might cut them some slack and just say, well, Homer just might just be just so dead set on
Yeah.
just saving Madoka that like it doesn't matter at all what happens.
One of my favorite scenes to support that reading is when in episode 10 she says, "Let's become witches together and tear down this world." She doesn't really care. She just wants to be with Madoka.
Well, that
I,
is true, but then episodes 11 and 12 happen.
yeah. Yeah.
And we are expected to believe. I mean, it is kind of fuzzy because we're in this alternate world where apparently Hummer had to regain her memory. She had to, like, reorient herself for a second. But if we're expected to believe that that character at the end of the series is the same one at the start of Rebellion, then that's what we're working with, and
Hmm.
that's what we have to ultimately change to get to the end point of the movie. And I don't think they did a very good job of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the execution was subpar.
Yes.
That's what I said. I
Well,
don't have a problem with evil Homura. I just need more to
Right.
justify it.
they also um the movie was long, obviously. I think it was like over 2 hours. So, I think they had to make a choice, like make this confused. Like I think they got what they wanted out of the movie was give
Yes.
a bunch of fan service and give like a partial conclusion to the series, or an almost like a conclusion to the series that will keep people talking about it.
Yes.
So I get the point that they don't want to spell everything out. They want people to like write things about it and say like, oh, this is what this means, and that they want people like, you know, bring up more hype so people go watch it, they hear about it. So I get the reasoning behind it, but I'm not really happy about it.
I'm gonna go through the rest of the plot holes I have listed here, and I just want you guys to say suspension of disbelief in that you were just able to run with it, or give a reason why it kind of grated on you. Um, how were the incubators able to seal out the law of the cycle?
That is a fantastic question, and I don't have a good answer. They
The
really shouldn't have been able to do it.
the same hand waving that makes the magical world girl wishes absolute. It's just like,
Okay, suspension of
you
disbelief.
know, it's
Okay,
it's anime logic.
yeah.
So
Okay,
I don't know,
I've seen a
though.
lot.
I don't know. Because if we go by the logic of prior wishes, then really there shouldn't be a way to work around what Madoka created.
Oh yeah,
it can one wish override another. Yeah.
Well, is what the incubators are doing a wish, per se? They just kind of built some sort of
Yeah.
field or something. If they had
Well, so
maybe explained that better.
the the field. Okay, maybe this will be some like half-ass logic, but bear with me. The field, it made me seem like it was keeping her from actually turning into a witch, obviously. So like, because
Mhm.
it was still a soul gem technically, just like in the transition between soul gem and
Mhm.
reef seed.
Yes.
All right.
So I don't think Madoka has the power to just drop in at any time and change things. She
Uh,
has the power to
yeah,
Well,
they stopped her
destroy
before
witches
she turned into a witch. Yeah.
well, she
because
is.
she had
I don't know.
every power, like any power, like
Yeah.
at all.
She,
She
she's
could stop people from becoming magical girls, right?
she's not omnipotent. She
Yeah.
only removes witches before they can be born. Homer was not a
But
witch.
that's the thing, though. She does become a
She
witch,
does become a witch. That should
which
have triggered.
is that
Yeah.
another plot hole? Can I just take a stab and
Yeah,
say
that
that
was the
is?
next thing I have
Well,
written
okay,
down
so
here.
like the
Right.
beginning
So
Yeah.
explanation,
Woo.
I found it to be solid, but
Yeah.
um it trailed off. Like, how can they trap Madoka and change her memories when she's a god? Come on.
Yes, that
hmm
was a big one for me. I, there's a line to the end of Homura. How was Homura turning able to turn into a witch? There's a line where they say, "Well, her corruption rate is increasing beyond what we can cleanse," or something to that end. And I was like, "What? How are you cleansing it?" Whatever. I'm done talking about that point. So suspension of disbelief. Okay, here's a big one. How did people enter the Soul Gem? Were they pulled into the Soul Gem? Did they walk out into the middle of the desert? All Tatia and Madoka's mom and
I don't even know.
uh,
So I was thinking that maybe they were just kind of like um Homer's projections of
yeah, that's what I
that's
thought too.
definitely why I thought Madoka was there. That basically they gave Homer a world to build, and
Yeah,
so she chose people important to her,
yeah,
and
sort of
they
like Inception. That's
yeah.
what I was going for.
So but then they started to act like individual beings, and so like
Yeah, Sayaka. Sayaka has a
it
big
put
role in
yeah
the show or in the movie, and it doesn't fall in line. Why weren't her memories erased? If if Sayaka
it
is the
it would
same
have
type of
made
being as
so much more
Madoka, and Madoka's
sense.
memories were erased, but Sayaka and Bebe's memories were not erased. Oh.
Actually, what's really odd is that Sayaka maintaining her memories carries over after the rewrite. After the rewrite happens. So
Yeah,
when she's
yeah.
back in the real world, which, by the way, the fact that she's brought back to life to begin with kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But even going beyond that,
I could ignore that.
there's no consistency to the rules.
Yeah.
Wait, so you when you say brought back to life, you mean in the original series? Mm.
I mean, to the extent that she was very much dead at the end of the series, and at the end of
Oh
the
yeah.
movie,
Hmm. She
after Homura has done her thing, she's apparently back.
that's
She's
one of
Yeah,
alive.
that's one of
that
my
was
favorite scenes too. That emotion when Madoka and her are sitting watching Kyosuke play the violin, and she
Yep,
says, "Do you want me to redo it?" And Sayaka says, "No, I
yep,
leave it the way it is. I'm fine not existing."
and that's all gone.
Yeah.
yeah that and I got Sayaka's presence because she's like I guess she's like an angel now if you're
Hmm.
keeping with like the
Yeah, I
heaven and hell
that's
metaphor.
why I was fine with her being in the movie. Yeah, totally.
But maybe that she was brought back to life because of the separation of the lost cycle. I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
again, I
Reaching.
bet you a lot of people at Shaft don't know.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just said
Yeah.
let the fans figure it out.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. In the pre-show, we were talking about Evangelion and how that sort of that sort of attitude of, well, whatever, just the fans will figure it out. Um, there doesn't have to be. We don't have to come up with all the answers. That's specifically the attitude that Madoka Magica, the series, didn't take, and one of the aspects I really loved about it. So when a lot of this movie was just sort of, it's a lot looser, we'll let the fans deal with it. It kind of ambiguity didn't help my opinion of the movie. My next plot hole.
mm,
How did Homura steal part of the cycle? She had no wish, she had no power. She had no wish, no power. How was she able to do that? She she ostensibly has more power than Madoka, who is a goddess. Even if
Um,
she wanted to, how was she able to do it?
I guess the only explanation I can think of is how Madoka's power the way I understood it is her power built up so much because Homura kept on rewinding,
Yeah,
and she was
harmony.
the one most connected to Homura, and it just kind of kept like
Yeah, all the red strings of
so.
fate connected on her. Yes.
Homura, I guess, is a similar sense. Her soul gem was just sitting there, like building this, like I guess, evil, not truly able to like release as a witch, and I guess maybe that caused something similar to what happened to Madoka, where she just like right when Madoka comes down, she just like has like the ability to be a god with that amount of power like contained there. But
Yeah,
again, that's very
yeah, that's a good theory,
that's
but
reaching.
I don't think there's enough support to say that's what happened. Yeah,
yeah.
There's a lot of set pieces, not enough connections between them.
yeah, yeah. The ending after the credits of the movie. Um, there's just like in the series, there was a post-credit scene wherein Homura, now evil Homura, um, sits on a chair at the edge of a cliff. There's half a moon. She falls off the cliff. She dances, and then Kyubey is ruffled. You got anything for that?
She was torturing him for being a dick
Mm,
because she's the god and she can do that.
mm,
Only thing I can
Frankly,
think.
I think the whole thing is just kind of aiming for shock value more than anything. Basically, to say like, here's the villain of the series that we know that so many of you hate so much, and here he is, beaten before you.
yeah,
Drink it in.
yeah. Fan service.
Yep.
Fan,
Again.
fan service. Yeah. Incube when she has the finger and she goes incubator, rubs his Cube's face. Yeah. So that's the end of my plot holes section of the film.
Can can we
Yeah.
talk about the symbolism? And there's one thing that just really nagged at me, and I have no idea what it's trying to say.
Go ahead.
So, you know how like a lot of the world was filled with kind of like puppet people? A lot of Homer's world was filled with puppet people because
Hmm.
I guess they were signified as non-important.
Yeah.
There were, I think they were recurring. There was that recurring like three or four like black puppet kids that they seemed to pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah,
They
they
were
kept showing
always,
up.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do
yeah, and they
appear.
they even got lines like dialogue at some point. It
Yeah.
didn't make too much sense at all to me.
I was stretching. I was thinking, I was looking for all these other connections in other Magical Girls series that I've seen because that's what I do. And I was trying to say, oh, is that one Serena from Sailor Moon, or is this one, Nanoha? Is this? It didn't work. There was nothing indicating them to be any other character in the show or any other character in any other show. They could have been her familiars, her witches familiars, but still, it put a lot of emphasis on those characters and didn't explain anything about it.
Yeah,
I got
you
nothing.
know, I want to
Yep.
believe that it was put in there purposely. I want to,
And
but
that's the thing that really endeared me to Madoka Magica the series was that you can go through it and I can tell you every shot, every element of every shot. Why when Kyoko stabs two spears into Love Me Do right before she fights Sayaka's witch, it's like a Beatles song, and then why when the references to Faust are in there, and why Kyubey is a cute animal, and you think because he's supposed to betray, why the transformation sequences suck in the series. I can tell you a reason for everything. Everything is so tight, nothing is wasted. And then in this film, it's quite the opposite.
Yep. 100% agreed on that front.
Yeah. And those shadow children are just one more thing where I
You know,
guess
the
you
thing
could.
is, to give the movie credit, it does have a lot of strong imagery that sits. It,
Oh
it
yeah.
sticks with you.
Oh yeah. And I don't mean
The
to
movie, the
sound
mo-
if you guys have stuck with us for this long, I don't mean it to sound like we're criticizing the hell out of this movie. I think it was great, the art direction where they made it like a half witch world,
right.
and
it was beautiful. Like the
it's
entire
It's a
movie was
gorgeous,
gorgeous movie.
beautiful.
gorgeous, gorgeous,
Like
and
I'm
the
so glad I saw it in a theater because
yeah, yeah.
it's
And to the
yeah.
sound, the dialogue, the characters' voices, the sound when they like Homura's witch theme, where it was sort of like a Day of the Dead type, Dia de Muerto type deal, um, and the music in the background there, that was great. That was, and there's some positives I have written down here too. Kyoko and Sakura. I I know that was fan service, right?
Oh yeah.
When she says, "I had one regret. I wanted to come back and tell you thank you." That was beautiful. I, I, so, I, you know, it's not all it's not all mistakes and regrets for Madoka Magica, the third movie. Okay, let's talk themes. I think there was a minor theme, maybe a major theme, of embracing reality versus living in blissful ignorance.
It definitely seemed like a prominent theme. And it was it was a choice given to Homura, but um, I think that was kind of in her character to be given this choice. Like you're in this fake world, and it's it's everything you've kind of
Yeah,
dreamed for.
yeah,
And then as far as I can remember, she just immediately rejected that idea. Like
yeah.
no matter how many chances she had, she couldn't she couldn't go with that.
And I tell you what, if it was a theme, I'm not sure that they did it well enough to make it stand out. Have you either either of you watched The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya?
Absolutely.
Have either of you watched The Matrix?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Same thing, right?
Mhm.
And two movies that just do it so well. When Cypher in The Matrix is sitting there eating the piece of meat and he says, I know this is this, but I don't care. Ignorance is bliss. And it's effective and it makes sense. And in Madoka Magica, that if that's a theme, it takes a huge backseat, a huge it only strikes a glancing blow.
Sure, because it's not a movie that's really built around those themes. I mean,
Yeah.
Disappearance and Matrix
Yeah.
most certainly are,
And
but
yeah.
I feel like in Rebellion, they're setting up too much for revelations. They're indulging in fan service too much. There's never enough time to really dig into the themes that it's presenting on a very almost shallow way.
They play a lot on calling back to episode 1 or episode 10. The opening of the movie and uh, Madoka waking up her mother. And some of that's purposely to confuse you, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. But some of it plays into the theme which Homura says right at the end, right when Madoka is trying to reascend to godhood. Um, she says, "Do you value structure and order, or do you value passion? Um, which one is more important to you?" Or maybe those aren't the exact words, but she presents Madoka with the choice, but it's not the same choice that she presents her with in the thing. In the series, she says, "Are your friends and your family? Do you value them, and would you never want something to change that?" And that's all explained, and that's great, and that's beautiful. Um, Structure and order versus passion. What do you think of Homer's line right there? Um, and if you remember the line differently, jump in. I I didn't really get it, I guess. Um, no thoughts?
Um, it it was definitely a good throwback.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it was kind of they were trying to make it fit since it was the same scene. They were trying to make it fit a similar situation. She was trying to say, "Do you want this normal life, or do you want to take the rough path, the road that is going to be difficult, but
Yeah.
others will thank you for it, or maybe not."
The thing is, she already made that choice.
Yeah,
That
Well,
was.
it's
it's
it's kind of
true, but
retreading ground,
Yeah.
and
at
more
the
to the
same time, you can is it could be argued that is would Madoka always make the same choice to be
Mm,
a god in every timeline? Because it seems like
yeah.
Madoka acts differently in each timeline. She
well
isn't
wasn't
quite the
wasn't
same.
I mean, yeah, but wasn't that the point that the reason that she became a god in that one timeline was precisely because
She found out
of
of
the yeah
what he was
the
doing.
repeated
Yeah.
the repeated timelines? That's all kind of converging onto that one last point. It was precisely because Hamura had created this cycle that eventually led to that one final timeline.
Yeah. Eh,
So yeah, she's going to act differently every time, but it was ultimately converging at one final conclusion.
Regardless, that as being one of the climaxes of the film, or the final choice of the film, or a major point of the film, eh, it fell flat for me. Emotions, okay? And we've touched on this throughout this discussion already. Um, this movie's, I think, very obviously purposely trying to confuse the viewers. I mean,
For sure.
you wouldn't argue with that? Um,
Yeah.
because I never knew what was real, if the people that I were watching were real, if anything was actually happening or just a memory, because of the confusion. When mommy says something like, "This is the happiest I've ever been," that emotion was not conveyed because I immediately thought, is this mommy talking? Or is this Homura's mommy? Homura's memories of mommy? Or is this mommy with her memories rewritten to feel happy?
Yeah, it is sort of ironic that they are depending so heavily upon fan recognition with these characters, fan attachment to them. But because their memories are uncertain because of the circumstances of the world they're in, they're not really the same characters at all in certain degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt that.
Yeah, so it can't even really get you on that level, and because it's it's such a character-driven movie,
Ooh,
because
she comes out, the Madoka's voice actress, before the film goes, and she says this is a film about the characters and their emotions, which I would
right,
100% agree with for the series. Yeah. Um, and then the directing, the choices of the plot and the directing counteracted the character-driven nature of the show.
yes, very much so.
That was my biggest problem. I think more than anything. I wanted to believe mommy that that was the happiest she's ever been. Because that would have played back with the blissful paradise theme, and that would have made Homer's choice a little bit tougher. But they don't. That's not really a choice. It's
I'm
not.
s- I'm s- I'm starting to think that line specifically, "This is the happiest I've ever been," is meant to purposely fly in the face of what we saw in episode 3, because
Uh,
that definitely seemed to be like one of the high points for her. She's just running around, just like, even though she's having to like kill these like horrible like monsters that just are very off-putting. She's dancing around, a smile on her face, like, and she gets all cocky about it, and
hmm
you know how that ends.
hmm
And so
Mhm.
it could just be a maybe a message like, yeah, we know that this isn't how things should be. Like, you should know that the happiest she's ever been was right before she died. So, but then again, is that could just be me reaching? That could be, again, them saying, let the fans figure it out.
she's like a traditional magical girl. She's happy to fight in a team. She's happy that she's not alone. Um, yeah, it's honest emotion. It's good, but yeah, it doesn't change the fact that it's invalidated by the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Oh.
This movie. Are you done? Are you done with? Are you are you satisfied at that conclusion? I suppose I should ask. Either of you, are you? I can't imagine the series would end like that. I saw somewhere that Shaft has said they have no plans to continue Madoka Magica, and I think that's
You know,
preposterous.
yeah. See, that's the thing. I've seen that quote, but I've also seen the quote that says that the reason that Homura turns evil at the end is because Shinbo, Chief Director Shinbo, he wanted uh, to leave it open for possibilities.
Oh yeah,
He
it's
wanted to have the chance for continuation, so he talked Urobuchi into making that ending.
wow.
Well,
That's in the
I
brochure as
don't
well, I think.
I don't think more Madoka would be a terrible thing, but I think the only way to make it anywhere near as good as the original is to start fresh. Like they've done that with the side characters where they have the same universe but different magical girls, and they do their own thing. So I think the only way they can make it work is maybe just have this universe where Homer is the evil god and they have these own magical girls. Or like basically they shouldn't. I don't think they should continue just rewriting these characters that
I
I would
completely,
agree.
yeah.
I
you
would
know.
agree, but I think the fact that they wrote this movie the way they did indicates that they're not going to do that.
I agree with
Oh
that
yeah,
as well.
definitely.
Yeah, I agree
I
that.
mean,
Yeah, they are way too
keeping the same
attached to these
characters
characters.
is going to be
Just
more profitable.
just Sayaka's last scene where she says, I will never forget Madoka. I will remember and I will fight you."
Hmm.
That's that's confirmation enough for me that there's going to be more Sayaka,
Yep.
Kyoko, Mami, and Homura.
I wouldn't
But
mind an alternate reality, just like slice of life, kind of like the first act. Like honestly,
oh yeah,
I
just a
know it's
standard
no straight
standard
fan
magical
service,
girl
but
show.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm all for that. Oh my goodness, would I watch the crap out of that? I simply how well the end. I don't want to say how well the series ending was done. I want to say how much it felt like a satisfying ending to a magical girl series. How much that sort of the Madoka Magica is the thing where it keeps stringing you along, and in episode 3 it says, "Oh, this isn't a standard magical girl series." Then in episode 5 where they fight, it's like it's not a standard magical girl series. And then when Homer shoots Kyubey in episode 8 or 9, it says, "This is not a standard magical girl series." And then when Kyoko sacrifices herself and Sayaka couldn't be redeemed, it says, "This is not a standard magical girl series." And and then in episode 12 it says, "Yeah, because of Madoka's wish, we're going back to a standard magical girl series." That's redemption, everything that was missing from the show, the happiness and um, the bittersweet ending. It feels it feels standard, not standard, but it ties it together so well. Um, it brings it back to where love and justice triumph. It'd be like one of those stories where love and justice triumph, and it is in the end. And the end of Puella Magi Madoka Magica Rebellion is not. It does not have that same feeling, um, and that alone sets it off for me. That this is not. You can't end it like that.
should we should we maybe like just each give like a conclusion about like overall how we felt about the movie? Because it
Uh,
feels like
I have one
okay,
last
yeah,
one last discussion topic before we get there. Before you give a final grade, before you give a final verdict on Madoka Magica, um, I want to ask you if we were being trolled, if
Oh man.
if that movie was simply through their large amount of irrelevant content, the large amount of fan service, the obligatory twist, the Urobuchi twist, the introduction of Charlotte, the mommy in a bed in a towel. Is it just or is it just the guys at Shaft saying, "Oh, is this what you wanted? Here it is. Lap it up."
Oh man. See, I have been holding this in since the start, but honestly, that's the only reading of this film to me that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. It's basically to say, um, we know we are self-aware that this movie did not need to exist.
Yes.
That the series is on its own a perfectly well put together story. So, in the face of demand for more, We will give you exactly what you want, and then at the very end, we will take it all away because we will destroy your happy ending. And yet, we will still leave it open for more, so you will come crawling back. Looked at from that level, it's actually kind of brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It is,
It
but
functions perfectly as that.
yes. I mean, as a story in its own right, it's faulty.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we can reach some agreement there, but yeah, as a trolling mechanism, for sure, it is undeniably powerful. It works for me.
DB, are you being trolled?
Oh yeah, I was trolled. Um, but I loved it.
Most of it.
That's why
Most of it
I
I
like
loved.
that's why I watched the Urobuchi stuff, just so I can be trolled. So it was a well done troll.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah. If you read it as a
very
troll,
closely.
it is masterful.
Yeah, and definitely like before the twist with Homer going evil, the entire thing kind of just felt like a goodbye letter because obviously it was a lot of fan service. So it felt like, all right, here's everything you wanted. You can leave with no regrets, except you actually will be leaving with a bunch of regrets, and we can sell you mini Blu-rays for the future to come. So, you know,
And now I'm sad.
we'll
I've
have
got
to
to
wait another 2 years for the next fan service pack adventure.
ship it straight to my door.
Which, speaking of Trolls, Shaft, and Magical Girls, Shaft's Prism Nana series, like, apparently that was supposed to be a thing. They were supposed to do another Magical Girl series that was like separate from Madoka,
Really?
and it's still not. They released pachinko machines based on it, and it's still not entirely like clear whether or not it was actually meant to be a series or if it was just meant to be pachinko machines. And they still haven't said anything about it for a very long time.
Wow.
And it's kind of a very trolly move. I want to believe it's an actual series because it looks kind of cool, but
All right, let's wrap it up. Um, I'd be interested to hear what your final remarks are. Um, just give me a summary. Uh, you know what? I'll go first. I've recommended Puella Magi Madoka Magica to any number of people. Um, all the more if they've ever seen a Magical Girl series. I specifically told r/Sailor Moon to watch it wholeheartedly, no regrets. I've had my 12-year-old sister. She watched Sailor Moon, and I told her, get on this. I've told people that have watched Nanaha or um, Pretty Cure, anything. You'll understand what this movie does in Deception. I've told people that haven't seen any Magical Girl series. I've said, watch Madoka Magica. You'll get enough out of it that you'll enjoy and see how it's just such a wonderful story. I don't feel that I could recommend Puella Magi Madoka Magica Rebellion to even a fan of Madoka Magica. I don't feel that I could share this movie with anyone. I don't feel that they would get any enjoyment out of it. And indeed, I saw it with my 13-year-old sister who'd watched the original series, and she did not get anything out of it. Um, I can't recommend. I can't recommend a rebellion story to anybody except people like people like you and people like me. That's my final verdict. Uh, Nova, what do you go up? Step it up. Step up. Take your
All
swing.
right, all right. I'll try to sum it up. This was a show that I watched pretty not too far out of my onset to watching anime in general. And despite lacking the background, despite all sorts of obstacles that could have been in place to my enjoyment of this show, it's still probably one of my favorite things I've ever seen. It's it's incredibly powerful on a multitude of levels. It's it's thematically resonant. It has great characters. It has a well tied together story. It is just excellent in every regard, and part of that is the fact that it is self contained. Rebellion is an affront to that on the sheer basis that it really didn't need to exist. And that nothing in the movie justifies that existence is really what brings it down for me. Despite the fact that it is gorgeous, despite the fact that the music is excellent, and there's great voice acting performances. In terms of presentation, if anything, it maintains or even surpasses the level of the series. But in terms of sheer story, in terms of emotional investment and the purpose, the theme, anything of that regard, it is a enormous step backwards, and in fact is self-defeating in many regards. So I too would not very much recommend it at all. I am pretty much thoroughly disappointed with it, honestly. So that's my stance.
DB, you're up.
Well, okay, so as you guys said, love the series. Like, possibly one of my like the number one anime on my list. It's a tough battle with like a bunch of others that I love that also have like other emotional attachments to, but it's just sweet to the point, and it hits you right in the emotions in many different ways, and it's just like so many things good about it. The story, the music, the character designs, the character developments, um, and a lot of those things carry over to the movie. A lot of them, but as you guys said, one of the most important things that did not seem to carry over was the the story's self-containing nature, the sweet and straight to the point nature. It kind of sour taste in my mouth, but at the same time, uh, I would not go out and say, hey, you need to watch this, as I did with the original series. But I might say, if a friend who watched the original series asked me about it, I might say, yeah, you might enjoy it. Just don't expect like um, the most the a very conclusionary uh, movie. Don't expect it to just wrap up loose ends. It might create more, as opposed to, let's say, Death Note. I might go as far to say, don't watch the second half. Like, just preemptively, I might say, do not watch this. There's some things I would definitely say, never, ever, ever,
Uh,
ever watch it.
Dragon Ball GT.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed GT. It was it's similar to this movie where I felt it was a lot of fan service, and I loved it. So it yeah, I wouldn't go out of my way to say don't watch it, but at the same time, I wouldn't go out of my way to say, hey, watch this. Um, and I'm not quite sure if the experience will carry over to Blu-ray as well, because
Yeah. It'll
oh my
never
God,
it'll
that
never
theater
be
showing.
yeah, it'll never be the same. You and
Oh,
I you and I,
Oh,
we have experienced something.
just
The
seeing the dance
atmosphere.
scenes on that giant screen.
It was something
Oh,
else.
oh. And I
Yes.
got that really cool souvenir. Um,
You
I
got the
can't.
sign print?
Yeah, I can't read Japanese, so unfortunately, I don't know how it's signed or the comment it says. But I can link it right now. But it was pretty great, and the entire experience was amazing. But looking back on it, I'm just like, what did I watch? What did I watch?
uh,
And if they do make new content that in some way redeems the movie, explains it, makes it worthwhile, I might go back and say, yes, that was great. But it would be a very, very uphill battle. It's
yes, 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 yes. Yep, we were a part of something, and the expectations, the hype, the train ride, the waiting, being in the theater, experiencing it as it happened. That's the ride itself was almost worth everything, in spite of the end destination.
and at the
Uh,
same time, isn't every anime movie just really a fan service cash
yeah,
grab?
cash grab. Yeah,
So
let's be
I
honest.
think unless it's a safe, self-contained movie, you should just go in expecting a bunch of fan service.
That's what we got.
I suppose so. And hey, I watched Beginning and Eternal, despite those just being recuts of the series. So
Yep.
they've
Oh,
got
I
me there,
so
I
wanted to
guess.
see that
Yeah.
in the
You
theaters.
didn't miss all that much.
It's
I
it's.
think
I mean, it's this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what
the biggest
happens.
the biggest triumph with that is that we are getting to see these movies in the theaters
Yeah.
at at
Yeah.
the same
In
time, if not just like a
America.
month later.
Yeah.
You know,
That's huge, and that cannot be overstated. And that's a conversation for another time. And Japanese content producers, the world's shrinking. Uh,
like they're showing the third Evangelion movie, and um, I'm not sure if it's just like I'm not sure if it's just like New York or something, but it's definitely coming to the U.S., which is cool because I'm pretty sure the overall fan reaction to that movie was negative. So
yeah.
even despite that, they're able to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
do
we're,
it anyways."
we're living in the future. That there was a fan base large enough of people that downloaded this silly magical girl show and connected enough to it that they would request there'd be enough opportunity for this movie to even for us to even go see it. That's
I'm glad there is a way I could support the series without having to shell out like $500 for
ah! Oh, Aniplex, what are you doing? Lower the
Ridiculous.
cost. Lower the cost. Or move to England, and then you can buy it for $36.
Still
22.
can't believe that.
Yeah. All right, guys, we gotta shut it down. That was a good hour and a half, maybe more, of Madoka Magica Rebellion story. So hey, thanks for joining us as we broke down Madoka Magica Rebellion story. I've been user clearandsweet on Reddit, joined with user deltaburnt and user novasylum. We hope that you will join us again whenever the next Madoka movie comes out. Till then,